Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and I came across another bodybuilding.com article, and this one's about how to bring up your arms. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilling up my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And it's pretty funny, guys. Bodybuilding.com is always putting out articles on how to bring up your arms. They act like these little small muscles, some of the smallest muscles in your body, are particularly difficult to bring up. Some of us are not genetically gifted in the arms, such as yours truly, but the thing is, these are such small muscles and they get such big attention. And the thing is, it's because so many guys focus on them and think arms are so important that they put all this out, but yet the information itself is usually some of the worst arm advice I've ever seen. And in this case, the title of it, 4 supersets to supercharge your arm growth. And it's kind of funny. Anyone who has any sort of mechanical background or anything always laughs when mechanical terms are thrown in there. Like supercharge, so how much boost do they have here? And is this a belt-driven or is this a gas-driven supercharger? Oh, wait, if it's gas-driven, it's called a turbocharger. People throw terms out like that as buzzwords, though, and it's always just kind of comical. That's a little side caveat for my car guys out there. Just the way they throw terms out like that, like it actually would apply to anything with arms. It's crazy. But it's a good buzzword. It draws people in. The problem is that they're sitting here talking about supersets, and there's some problems with what they're talking about. They're sitting here saying that doing alternating supersets actually stores energy in the opposing muscle. I want people to think about that sort of term there for a moment, storing energy. Now, we know that when you compress a muscle under load, all right, that stores energy. An eccentric rep that either forces a muscle to compress or puts a stretch reflex can do that. But there's no load on these muscles. They're not storing energy. An example, when you go down on a heavy squat, on your way down, the weight does compress some of the muscles in the body like a spring. The eccentric rep can store energy, and that energy coming from the weight compressing it can store energy in some of your muscles a bit and compress them like a spring so that you can spring back up out of the bottom. But the idea on something like this isn't true. If anything, the only benefits to opposing muscle group supersets is that they don't usually interfere negatively with recovery between sets, meaning when you're dealing with small muscles like biceps and triceps, they don't hurt your performance usually to perform a tricep exercise right after a bicep or vice versa. But they don't improve performance. That's the thing. They don't really improve performance. It just lets you get out of the gym faster. But the thing is, they're trying to promote that as if it actually has additional growth benefits, and that's not really true. And they're trying to make arm development more complicated than it really needs to be. But then you look at their supersets themselves, what they have here. All right, it wants you to do... And I assume no rest, they don't mean between these sets, obviously, because you can't do 3 sets of 6 reps with no rest in between. That would be an 18-rep set. So it's obviously you're going over to the other exercises. So you're going straight from a 3-rep barbell curl set, or a 6-rep barbell curl set, straight into a straight into an easy bar skull crusher. And you know what the thing is? If you look at the way he's doing it with the elbows pulled in and everything else, this is the stuff we talk about that causes tricep inflammation, by the way. I've done countless videos on that. This form of tricep extension that they're doing actually causes inflammation of the tendons of the triceps, the lateral and medial head. So you've got to look at this and go, what the fuck are they trying to teach people? And then immediately afterwards, they go to 3 sets of closed grip bench press to failure. And then they hop over and take only a 60-second rest before they go back to the barbell curl. I want you guys to think about all the various data out there. What have we noted in the research as far as any of this goes? Pre-exhaustion doesn't actually work. You guys want to know what's going to make your triceps grow more effectively? If you come do a heavy closed grip bench press as your first exercise. All right, this has been shown many times over the years. Every single strength and conditioning coach knows this, that usually you get better growth by performing the big heavy compound movement with heavier weights than you do performing the isolation movements afterwards, not in a superset, but afterwards, so that you can focus upon just the primary muscle you're trying to get to grow. Meaning, closed grip bench press works the pecs tremendously. It works the delts tremendously. Some people would argue it is a better overall upper body exercise than the wide grip. I happen to be one of those people. But you would do that with a relatively heavy weight to stimulate a lot of growth in all those muscles. And then if you wanted more focus on the triceps in that particular workout, then the pecs and the front delts, what would you do? Then you would do some sort of tricep extension to get additional growth stimulation in that muscle. But you'll get better growth by performing with a moderately heavy weight on the big heavy compound. But in this case, they pre-fatigue it using a skull crusher. And there's nothing wrong with skull crushers. There's nothing wrong with a tricep isolation exercise like that. Laying tricep extensions done correctly are fantastic exercise. So I'm not knocking the exercise choice. I might be knocking the execution of it. But they have you come in and do these pre-exhaustion sets like that. So you do this little fluffy isolation exercise and go to the big compound. I want people to think about that. I've discussed that in the past. How does that actually stimulate any extra growth? You actually would get more growth if you just performed another set of tricep extensions than by doing the close grip behind it. You're not making the triceps work any harder. All you're doing is throwing other muscles into the equation that because you're using a light weight because the triceps are fatigued, that aren't getting enough growth stimulation because you're forced to use 50% or less of the weight that you would normally use on the exercise. This pre-exhaustion method like this is actually fucking stupid. And when you look at it biomechanically and from an exercise science perspective, it is stupid. You generally get more muscle growth when you do big, heavy compounds sooner in your workout and then you do isolation movements afterwards. Pretty much decades of research and studying athletes and lifters and everything else has taught us this. We know this. And this is silly shit from the Weeder magazines to do these pre-exhaustion things. So this is just crazy that they're just trying to implement this same old bullshit in. The other thing, their next one, 3 sets of 8 reps with preacher curls. Preacher curls is a good exercise. Nothing wrong with it for isolating the biceps. Then behind the neck, seated tricep extensions. It's stuff like this. But the thing is, all they're teaching people to do is just do supersets. There's nothing special about what they have in here, but here's the problem. What they're actually teaching you is going to cause your arms to grow slower because see what they're doing? Every one of these, they have you doing a bicep exercise, then a tricep exercise, and a superset. And then how long are you taking? 60 seconds between. When we looked at the research that Brad Schoenfeld had put out on rest times a while back, when he studied rest times versus muscle growth, what did we find out? Longer rest times usually equal more muscle growth when you're dealing with weights that are getting close to the maximum reps you can do with that weight. Meaning if you're picking your 9 to 10 rep max and you're doing 8 rep sets with it, taking 2 to 3 minutes actually seems to produce more muscle growth than 60 seconds. The reason for it is that you can use more weight for all your sets across. All right, you can use more weight. More weight for the same number of reps equals more tension, more tonnage, more workload. And it's been noted over the years that the amount of workload, and that is a relationship of tonnage and weight moved, actually is an important factor for hypertrophy. When people talk about volume, that is what they mean by volume, is the total tonnage you've moved. And I don't mean, cheating weight up, but I'm talking about on any exercise, whether it's a clean bench press, like a really clean form with good technique for full range of motion, not cheating to get the weight up, or a bicep curl, again, even done with a concentration curl in isolation. The total amount of weight you move, which is, again, the weight on the bar or dumbbell times the number of reps you did in the workout, that's your actual volume. Meaning if you used a 30-pound dumbbell instead of a 60 for 3 sets of 10, you did half the volume, right? It's not just reps and sets, it's how much actual work did you do. That's your volume. It's a big component of your volume. Well, by them doing the 60-second breaks, yeah, they're getting you out of the gym faster, but they're not maximizing muscle growth. All this is that they're demonstrating here by taking really short breaks and by doing supersets is trying to get you out of the gym faster. But that's not how you make your arms grow. Finding a way to get out of the gym faster and do a bunch of isolation movements as quickly as possible to get out of the gym, that's not how you bring up a lagging body part. That's not how you bring up a lagging body part. You bring up a lagging body part by making that body part do more work every week. It's pretty common sense. There's research to back all of this. It's becoming more and more well documented in the research, but it is common fucking sense that muscles grow as a result of work. The more work you subject a lagging muscle to over the course of every week and month, the more likely it is to come up. This is just showing methods for people to try to get in and out of the gym quickly. Just superset your arms real quick and take really short breaks. That's not how you bring up lagging arms. You want to bring up lagging arms? Why don't you focus on getting as strong as possible on weighted chin-ups? Get as strong as possible on weighted chin-ups, and then pick a good curl, whether it's an incline curl or a straight bar curl or something else, and try to work on getting as much quality volume in every week with that exercise also. So you take a big heavy compound and get stronger on it, and then you take a good isolation movement to finish off a muscle, and you work on getting good volume in with it every week. You know, that'll bring your biceps up. How about the triceps? Why don't you work on getting really strong on the closed grip bench press or the weighted dip, and then find a good tricep exercise to do behind them. In fact, I go so far as to say if you get really strong on the closed grip bench press or the weighted dip and some sort of overhead press, you might not even need to isolate a tricep to bring it up if it's lagging. But you know, this article doesn't teach any of that. This is just another clickbait article, typical of bodybuilding.com, teaching misinformation, actually trying to teach people like they're going to bring up lagging arms using methods that are known to be inferior growth stimulating methods. Again, another clickbait bullshit article by bodybuilding.com, and this is the sort of stuff we expect to see from them. I'm going to continue to cover these articles. I've done a few of these in the past because I don't see any inside of them doing this bullshit. And they don't seem to understand, you know what, you get bigger, you bring up a muscle that you want it to grow by getting stronger and subjecting it to more workload, giving it adequate recovery time and sleep, and giving it enough food to grow on. All right, it really is that simple. And these people want to use these fluffy, wuffy little bullshit methods in here to try to tell people that that's how they're going to bring up a lagging muscle. You know what? It won't. And I guess that's good for business, because if people still have lagging muscles and problems and everything after buying all their supplements and reading all their articles, they're going to have repeat customers for a while. And incidentally, they have all the supplements down at the bottom and the links that might help you bring up these lagging muscles, because we know that's really the key, right? Buy their products and everything will be just fine. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.